Good morning. Welcome to this session. So in this session, let us discuss about the control structures. So what is this control structures and why do we need this control structures in shell programming? Basically, in any of the shell programming concepts, the set of statements are executed sequentially one after the other. So is there any provision to break this sequential execution of statements in Unix shell program? Yes. We can change or we can alter the flow of execution in shell programming. So how do we do that? So we are going to make use of control structures. So in control structures we are going to discuss two different concepts. One is branching control structure, the other one is looping control structure. So let me start with branching control structure. So we have four different types of branching control structure with respect to shell programming. So here we have those branching control structure. One is if then if statement. Second one is if then else if. Third one is if then else if. The third one is case. So these four are very similar to your decision making statements which we have already discussed in a C program or in C++ program. So only the keyword that we have is then, and we have a small change in the syntax compared to your C and shell programming. So we will discuss one by one with some suitable example. Let me begin with the first branching control statement, that is if then fi. So this is the general syntax of if then fi. So it indicates that so if the condition is verified, we provide an expression condition. If the condition is true, then the given statement will be executed, and fi indicates that that's the end of your if statement. So this is how your the syntax of your if statement looks like. So I'll just repeat this. We check for the given condition. If the condition is true, then the statement is executed. So what happens in shell programming is the statements will always be executed based on the exit values or based on the conditional return values. So if the condition is true, then it returns a value called as 0. If the condition is false, then it returns a value called as 1. So if the condition is true, then it returns 0, stating that the respective statement has to be executed. So here we have a simple example for that, to find out the biggest of two numbers. So I'll just give a message to enter two numbers and read the values of those two numbers, that is A and B, using a read statement. So let me assume that A is large value. I shall assume A is larger, and I'll store that A value in a variable called as large, and I'll compare your large value with your B using GT. Here GT represent greater than. So now this is the condition given for your if statement. Now if statement checks for the truth value of your condition. So let A equals to 5 and B equals to 8. So this is my value. So now A value has been stored in large. Now B value is 8, and we check the condition is been verified here. 8 is GT represents greater than, hyphen GT represents greater than. If 8 is greater than large, yes, condition is true. So here we should have a then statement. Then the particular statement will be executed. So what is that statement? Large equals to B. That means since the condition is true, the value of B will be stored in large, and the same value is being printed. So this is how you make use of your if then statement. Here fi indicates that's the end of your if statement. So we verify the condition. So this condition basically returns the truth value. If the truth value is returned as 0, then it indicates that yes, the condition is true. Then control is given back to the statement to be executed. If the condition does not holds good, then the exit value or the return value will be returned as 1, indicating it is a false. So this large equals to B statement will not be executed, and again large value will be A itself. So this is how your if then fi executes. So we'll move on to the next branching statement, that is if then else if. So this is very similar to your if else statement in C program. So This is the syntax, general syntax. So we provide the condition here. If the condition is true, then it returns a value called as 0, then statement 1 will be executed. If condition is false, then it returns a value 1, so that the statement 1 will not be executed. Next statement 2 will be executed. If condition is true, statement 1 will be executed. If condition is false, then statement 2 will be executed. As usual, fi indicates that end of the if else statement. So we'll take a simple example again to find out the biggest of two numbers. Now I have a and b are the two different numbers, and I'll check whether a is greater than b. If a is greater than b, then it returns a value called as 0, so that this particular statement will be executed, displaying that a is a large number. If a is greater than b, condition does not holds good, then it returns a value called as 1, indicating that it's a false statement. So if a false statement, then the second statement has to be executed, that is the large number is b. So b will be considered as the biggest number, and as usual fi indicates that it's an end of your if else statement. We'll move on to the next branching statement, that is if then elif else fi. So this is very similar to your if else if statement in C program, or what we generally call it as a ladder if else statement. So this is the general syntax for your if then elif statement. If the expression or the condition is being true, then this particular statement will be executed. If the expression 1 does not holds good, then the control is not given to the statement, rather the control is given to else if, where elif again verifies your expression 2 is true or false. If this expression 2 is true, then this particular statement will be executed. If expression 2 does not holds good, again the control is given to your elif statement, where this elif statement will verify the truth value of your expression 3, indicating that whether the expression 3 is true or false. If expression 3 is false, then this statement will not be executed. If it is true, then the statement will be executed. In case if expression 3 is not true, then control will be given back to the last statement, that is statement yes. So it's very similar to your if else if, or what we call it as a ladder if else statement. So the difference you find is if it is true, then it returns a value called as 0. So this is true, then returns 0. If it is false, then it returns 1. So if it is 0, then the first statement will be executed. If it returns 1, then the second statement will be executed for verification. So we have a similar kind of example here to check if two numbers are equal, or if it is greater, or if it is lesser, using your if else if statement. So already a value and b value are being defined here, and the values are 10 for a and 20 for b. Just by looking at these values, we can straight away say that a is a larger number. So my output probably would be a is less than b. So now, but I have to verify this. I have to go through the logic whether my condition satisfies or not, using your if else statement. So now we are going to make use of a comparison operation here to check the equality between a and b. If a is equals to b, so what is the value of a? A is 10 and value of b is 20. So a is not equals to b, then we don't say that this particular statement will not be executed, because it returns the value as 1, indicating that the condition is been false. So this statement will not be executed. Then the control is given back to elif statement to check the greater value between a and b. So the value of a is 10, the value of b is 20. 10 is greater than 20, again the condition is false, then this false value will be written as 1, indicating this particular statement should not be executed. And then the condition is given back to your elif statement to check whether a is less than b. Yes, of course, in this statement a is less than b condition is true, so it returns a value called as 0, indicating that this statement is true or the condition is true. Then this particular statement will be executed, stating that a is less than b, and this will be the output. A is less than b will be your output. So this is how your if then else if statement will be executed. So moving on to the next branching statement, we have a case statement. So this works very similar to your switch statement in your C program, and here we have a simple example for that. I would like to perform or develop a menu based calculator to find the addition of two numbers, to perform or to find the difference between two numbers, to find the product of two numbers, and to return the quotient of two numbers. So if I would like to develop a simple program, a menu driven program to design a calculator, then I can definitely go with a case statement in shell program. So here I have a simple example for that. I will take two different numbers n1 and n2, and I'll perform these four basic operations on n1 and n2 based on your menu driven option. So I'll just display a message to enter the first number, and I'll read the value of your n1. Meanwhile, I'll also enter a message called as enter the second number and read your n2 value. And these are the different options that what I can perform. I can perform an addition operation, I can perform a subtraction of two numbers, I can perform a product of two numbers, and I can perform a division of two numbers. So now I'll ask which among these four are your choice. Either I can perform addition, or I can perform subtraction, or I can perform multiplication, or the division for that case. So I'll just enter which among these are my choices. So ch is a variable which will hold your choice value, where the values of ch might be 1, or it might be 2, or it might be 3, or it might be 4. So if my choice is 1, then it has to perform an addition of n1 and n2. If my choice is 2, then it has to find the difference between n1 and n2. If my choice is 3, then it has to perform a product of two numbers, that is n1 and n2. If my choice is 4, then it has to find the quotient of two numbers, or else it doesn't perform any other operation. So here I make use of your case statement here and check if my choice matches with these options. So here this is how your labels are. 1 is my choice 1 to perform addition, this is your choice 2, this is your choice 3, and this is your choice 4. If your ch value is typed as 1, then what is your value of ch? 1. Yes, 1 is existed. Since 1 is present, yes, we have a value called as 1. Then it performs an addition operation of n1 and n2, and that value will be displayed. And this particular semicolons, you can find two different semicolons here, indicating that the case 1 is, this is the end of your case 1. If you find double semicolons, indicating that that's the end of your case 1 statement. So these are the two different statements which has to be executed based on your case 1. Now let me say that I have taken my choice as 2. This time the choice has been 2. So your choice is been matched with 1. 2 and 1 is not one and the same. Then it goes to the next part, that is 2. Yes, my choice 2 and this label 2 is one and the same. Since they are one and the same, now you perform a difference operation between n1 and n2, and that value will be stored in sub, and you finally display the value of the difference value of your n1 and n2, which has been stored in sub, and semicolon 2 double semicolons indicates that that's the end of your case 2. So this 2 is the statement which comes under case 2. And if my choice is 3, so it matches with 1. 3 and 1 does not match, 3 and 2 does not match, so then goes for the third option, 3 and 3. Your choice 3 and label 3 are one and the same. So since they are one and the same, now you can perform the product operator. So this is your product operator in shell programming. Basically in any of your any of your other programming language, asterisk is used to indicates that that's a product operator, but in the shell programming, so this is the actual operator to perform the product of two numbers, and calculates the product of two numbers and stores the value in mul, and same multiplication value will be displayed and indicating that this is the end of your case 2. And very similar to that, if you would like to calculate quotient of two numbers or find the quotient of two numbers, then my choice should be 4. if my choice is 4, then it does not execute all these 3 choices. It executes only the choice 4, because your choice 4 matches with your label 4. So it finds the quotient between 2 different numbers and just displays the value. And finally, here this has to be ended. Usually it has to be ended with E A. So this should be E A. Yes, sorry, this is E S. Sorry, so this should be E S A C. So once all your choices are being finished, your case has to be ended with a last statement called as ESAC. So in the previous example we have seen, when if statement is being written, then it is being ended with FI, stating that that's the end of your if statement. Very similar to that, when I have a case statement to be executed, to indicate that's the end of your case statement, it has been ended with ESAC statement. So this is how, these are the 4 different options where we have a branching control structure. Moving on to basically here we have as we know that the branching statements definitely will change the flow of execution, and based on the required set of statements I'll be able to execute the statements, and it always depends upon the provided condition. If the condition is true, it returns a value 0 in shell program. If condition is false, then it returns a value 1 in the shell program. Most of the cases you can just really compare with your C or C++ program, works very similar to that, but there is a small difference in its syntax. So moving on to the next control structure, that's loop controlled structure. So why we call it as a loop control structure? If a set of statements has to be executed repeatedly or again and again, then such kind of control structures we call it as a loop control. Say I have 2 different statements which has to be executed again and again, and those 2 statements are put forward in the loop control structure. So those 2 statements will be repeated, executed again and again. So loop control structures are being classified into 2 types. One is the command control loop, and the third one is list controlled loop. So I'll give you the difference between the command control loops and the list control loops in the upcoming class. But under command control loops we have 2 different types of loops. One is the while loop, the other one is until loop. And under list control loops we have only one single loop statement, that is your for loop, and again that will be discussed in the upcoming classes. So in this class let us discuss the syntax of your while loop and the example for it, and the syntax of your until loop and its example. So moving on to the next one, while loop. So sometimes your while loop statements and until loop statements are called as entry level loop statements. Why we call it as an entry level loop statement is where, because so before you enter to execute the set of statements or the commands, you have to verify the condition. So this is your general syntax of your while statement with 2 different keywords, do and done. So these 2 statements we will not be finding in it's either in the C program or in the C++, but in the shell programming you have 2 more keywords called as the do and done here. If condition is true, then it does execute the set of statements or the commands. It might be one single statement or it might be a group of statements which will be executed, which is present between do and done. So these commands or the statements will be executed only when the condition is true. And once these statements are completely executed, again the control is given back to your while statement to verify the condition. So your while statement basically keeps executing the set of statements which is present in do and done till the given condition is true. Once the condition is false, none of these statements which are present within do and done will be executed. So here we have a simple example for that. I have initialized a value of I have taken a variable called as I equals to 1. Now I would like to print first to 5 numbers. So what I do is, I will make use of this while statement and I'll check. Now the initial value of your I is 1. 1 is less than or equals to, so hyphen LE represent less than or equals to 5. Yes, it is, condition is true. Since the condition is true, so we are supposed to execute the statements which are present between do and done. Now since the condition is true, the first statement will be executed, displaying the value of I. What is the value of initial value of I? It is 1, and 1 will be printed. And now this is the statement which is used to increment the value of I. That means the whatever the value of I we have, that is been added with 1. So 1 value is been incremented. Now I value is 1, 1 plus 1 is 2, and 2 is being stored in this particular I. Now the new value of your I is 2. Then we have a done statement. Again this will be given the control back to your while. So condition is verified again. This time the value of I is 2. 2 is less than or equals to 5. Yes, condition is true. Since the condition is true, I value will be displayed. So like this, the values 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5 will be printed. And once it reaches 6, if the value of I reaches 6, then we have a comparison operation, that is 6 is less than or equals to 5. So 6 is neither less than 5 nor it is equals to 5. So condition is failed. Since the condition is failed, these two statements which exist between do and done will not be executed. Then the next statement which is present after the done will be executed. So this is how a while statement in shell programming basically works. So we'll move on to the until loop, where this until loop exactly works opposite to your while loop. Don't get confused between your while and until loop in shell program. We do not have do while statement in shell programming. We have while loop statement and we have until loop statement, where until loop statement works exactly reverse of your while statement. But both of them are entry level looping statement. So what is that difference that we do have in while and until is, so in the while statement, if the given condition is true, then the statements which is present in do and done will be executed, and the statements will not be executed when the condition is not true. But when it comes to your until statement, until verifies the condition. If the condition is true, then these two statements will not be executed. If condition is false, then these two statements will be executed, which is present between do and done. I'll just repeat this. In the until statement, if it verifies the condition, if condition is false, then the statements within do and done will be executed. Once the condition becomes true, the statements will not be executed. So in while, if condition is true, statements are executed. If condition is not true, statement is not executed. But in until statement, if condition is false, then the block of statements will be executed. If condition is true, this block of statement will not be executed. Then control will be given back to the statement which is present after your done statement. The rest of the operation is same. So here we have an example. So this should be until. So this is not while, this should be until. If until, so here if this is, we are going to check until, that is if the condition is false, what is the value of I? 1. 1 is greater than 5. Yes, condition 1 is not greater than 5. Condition is false. Since the condition is false, so these two statements will be executed. So printing the value of I as 1 and incrementing the value of I as 2. Now the control is given back to your until statement and check the value of your I. The value of your I is 2. 2 is greater than 5, greater than or equals to 5. So 2 is neither greater than nor it has been equals to 5. Condition is false. Since the condition is false, the statements will be executed. So you should remember between while and until statement, only the difference is in until statement, if the condition is false, then the statements will be executed. In while statement, if the condition is true, then the statements will be executed. In upcoming classes, we shall discuss about the other type of looping statement, that is your for loop, we have a couple of lab programs which are associated with the for loop. So first let me explain with how for loop, what is the syntax of your for loop, and we'll take a simple examples to implement your for loop, and how it can be also been used to read the contents of your directory. So that we will discuss in the upcoming classes. Thank you for the session.